For live, waiting for live, and we're live. Welcome to Feedback Friday. We're back. The NAB show in Las Vegas was fantastic. Being able to play even a short, dysfunctional session live from the Flamingo was pretty incredible. So, if you are just tuning in, I am Bill Allen. I am the teacher at LTTV, but also the font of wisdom behind D&D with high school students. And Feedback Friday is, in fact, happening today because I've had some interesting comments and I want to address those. I also want to say thank you to some of the kind supporters, some of the new subscribers to the channel, and answer questions and respond to feedback and criticism. So with me today on the couch are Carl. That's Carl.
Hi.
And Max, who are part of the program. So I don't really like this angle. It's not flattering for me on Facebook. But so if you're watching on Facebook, no one is because you can see that no one is watching.
You got 14 people over here.
Okay, good. I'll pay attention to you, YouTube friends. Thanks for tuning in. So Feedback Friday. If you have questions, post them. Dave will try to read them to me and interrupt me whenever he can, but otherwise I'm going to move right into comments. So, like always, there are people who will post things about rules. And if you've been a fan of the show so far, you know that I don't care about rules. It's not that I don't care. Anytime I play a game, I read the books thoroughly so that I know the game. But sometimes I don't use rules that are published because maybe they just don't fit, or maybe I don't want to slow down the game. So here is a GM tip. GM tip, this is a free tip right now. In almost every role-playing game I've ever played, damn the phone.
Come on, Candace, pick it up, Candace.
In almost every role-playing game I've ever played, we find that there's an opening part of a book for a role-playing game that says, use the rules as you need to. The game master is the final arbiter of the game. And that's kind of the approach I've taken since the late 70s. You play the game because it's an interactive story. You're building a story with other people. The rules facilitate that story. So they're important, but they shouldn't hang you up. You should never get caught up with the rules or the mechanics. Okay? Now, some people, and I grew up playing with a lot of these people, they are the kind of nerds who love crunchy systems with a lot of rules and math and that kind of stuff, and that's fine. You still my nerds, but I'm just not that guy. I kind of feel like I've evolved past it. So what I'm trying to do with D&D with high school students is teach people who really haven't played role-playing games how to play the role-playing game and how to focus on building the story together and playing their characters. The role, R-O-L-E, is the key. Yes, you do some dice with rolling, R-O-O-L, but there are games that don't even have dice rolls. It's diceless role-playing games where you just describe what you want to do, and then if it makes sense for your character, then you could either do it or you can't do it, right? So that's one of the things that I want to just blanket address with any comments. So if you're one of the people who posted a comment that was like, the rogue should have been able to, get advantage on the flanking of the blah, 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 you're right. And when I play with more experienced players who know the rules, they just do that. And as the DM or GM, I don't have to worry about telling them how to play their character. With the high school students, they're still learning. So if they don't do something, that's cool. But I do take what you say into account. And here's an example. Somebody, I have to find who said this. Somebody was like, Bill, you should give them homework, and their homework should be to read.
Homework?
Yeah.
Senior.
Not a.
Well, but wait, let me explain. So the idea was give them homework to read their character class and their abilities, so that they know how to play their characters. Like, just read the part of the player's handbook that tells them how to play their characters. And I was like, that is the greatest idea ever. And it's true, right? Like, I would say you should know how to play your character. And a lot of the comments give great tips to the students, like, hey, if your warlock could do this, you should do this, or hey, your rogue could do that. So I love those tips. I love those comments, and I share them with the students, and I encourage them to do that. So a lot of them, are interested in those things, and they do read the comments, and they take some of your advice, and I take some of that advice. I would love it if the players would take the time to like read their class description and read their spells or read their abilities. But as Max just pointed out, they're all seniors, so I
You
can't
don't
even
do your
Yeah.
homework period.
I can't even get them to do homework anyway. So like real, school
Make
homework.
videos, just not papers.
Yeah.
And I don't
So right, it's hard to do.
What kind of feedback do you request from your players to make sure your players and the high school kids in this case are enjoying the game? How often do you request that feedback?
Yeah, almost every session we play, we do a little off-camera like debrief, and I do read all the comments. I mean, it's hard sometimes, but I try to read all the comments. I love feedback from you guys, from the audience, even if it's critical. Like I could take it. I'm thick-skinned, so like and questions too. So like sometimes it's just I think sometimes people don't understand the context. Like my original world doesn't have a lot of the things that the Forgotten Realms has on purpose. I designed it that way. I wanted it to be different from existing published settings. And it's an original world I've been working on since 1998. So I know my original world pretty well. The new players are just learning it. They're new to the game. So they're new to the game mechanics, but they're also new to the game world. So sometimes when people have feedback to give and comments to post, it's good feedback, but it's not relevant because it doesn't apply to like my game world. And then a couple points of clarification. So obviously the player's handbook says that you can generate characters through a point buy system, or you could roll, and yes, those are options. Some people have asked, why do I have specific ways? Like in season 1, when I forced them all to play humans, I forced them to play humans because of the setting they were in. It's not just because I'm a jerk and I don't want to give them options. It's because in that setting, on that continent, the humans are the primary race, right? But I also give them a couple buffs, right? So my unique rolling system for character generation on that continent for humans is you roll 4 dice, take the best 3, re-roll 1s. So if I roll, 4, 1, 1, 6, 5, those 2 1s could be re-rolled and they could be 6 or 5s. And if you roll 1 again, you keep re-rolling until it's not a 1. The other homebrew thing that I have in there to kind of give people a power boost is if you roll your 4d6 for a stat and you actually roll 4 6s, it automatically grants you, instead of giving you just an 18, it gives you a 20. So why do I power boost that? Because in that same original world, there's no arcane magic and there are no enchanted items, period. So even at 15th level, the best you're going to have is what you had at first level, typically. So that's why I give those initial character creation dice rolls that kind of power boost. So yeah. All right. What else? Any other questions, Dave, right now before I jump in?
What are your favorite things about D&D? How do you come up with such a creative story?
Okay, my favorite things about D&D. Well, first of all, I love a lot of different genres. I love the fantasy genre because I grew up with it. It was the first game that I played in role-playing games, so it's always going to have a special part in my heart. I have played other fantasy role-playing games. I played Palladium Fantasy for a while. I played Pathfinder. I played every edition of D&D, including the playtests. I think fantasy gives you a different world to play in that isn't our modern world, and it makes you think how you would do something in a different world. And I think that challenge makes it cool. How do I come up with the interesting things for my own original world? That is a good segue into today's big Feedback Friday topic. So yes, we have a big Feedback Friday topic. So this comes from Sam. Sam Ruza is one of my former students who graduated and moved on, and now he's like a grown man, which makes me feel old. So Sam says, "Hey there, Bill. I have two D&D related questions, as I'm starting up a campaign with a group that I'm confident in which we can make actual progress. 1, do you know of any good D&D podcasts? 2, how have you started your campaigns outside of the traditional tavern setting?" I watched all of Bacon Battalion Adventures of the Windswift. So, number 1, podcasts. There are a lot of podcasts. There are a lot of actual play games, Critical Role, and all the other Geek and Sundry Twitch shows. Maze Arcana with Satine and Rudy. Taking 20, my boy Cody has Saver Dice. Those are just like off the top of my head. There are a lot of gameplay channels that you could watch and you should watch. Now, that said, there are things in each of those that I like and things that I don't like. Thing number 1 that I don't like is I, for whatever reason, just don't like the format of most Twitch shows. And when I say Twitch shows, what I mean is a game where you have 5 or 6 or 4 or 7 people playing, and they're all Skyping in, and you see them on the screen all the time, and they're playing their characters. I just can't get into it. It doesn't, I don't know why. I don't know why I don't like that format. Whether it's little boxes of them all there, but that's just my personal little weird thing that I don't like. I feel like if I had to pick a style that I liked that maybe you haven't checked out, Critical Role might be another good one. If you liked Bacon Battalion, Critical Role is a good one. Maze Arcana is good because, first of all, they produce a lot of different content. They have a lot of their stuff in Eberron, which is a setting that I don't play in, but I see why they play in it because it's very flexible. You could do kind of traditional fantasy stuff, but Eberron has this element of Arcana punk, which is, instead of steampunk, it's like instead of steam powering these kind of things, it's magic, right? So that setting is cool for them, and the players kind of get into their roles deeply. There are so many different podcasts that you could watch, but here's the thing. Why do we watch podcasts? Why does anybody watch our show? Number 1, for entertainment. But if you're watching it to learn, that's a different thing. Okay? I have this philosophy, Carl, with movies.
Yes.
I segregate movies into 2 categories: movies and films.
I do that too.
Okay.
I do that.
Now, why do I do that? Movies are just brain candy. They're things that I like to watch that might not necessarily be great films, but they're just entertaining. Films I consider to be entertaining, but also, more importantly, things that I learn from. Do you get that division? Is that
Shawshank's a film,
Shawshank.
and a movie is like
Sharknado.
Rampage that just came out.
Hangover.
Right.
Sharknado.
Black Panther was a great movie. And yes, there are even some elements of that as a film that I could be appreciative. But 10 years from now, Black Panther or any of the superhero movies will probably just be movies to me that I enjoy watching. Reservoir Dogs, or The Godfather, or Apocalypse Now, those are films to me. Those are things that I study and I learn from. I could watch them over and over and over again. They're great films in terms of learning from them, and they're also great movies in terms of entertainment. But some great films are not entertaining, but you should still watch them because they're amazing lighting or camera or whatever, right? I apply this approach to podcasts. Some of the podcasts are just entertaining. They're just fun to watch. But some of them you can learn from. So I try to watch all these podcasts. I watch Acquisitions Incorporated is a good example. A lot of my friends are into Acquisitions Incorporated, and I'm just kind of not. It's entertaining, But like, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. It's kind of like watching, you know, a bunch of your friends play D&D in college. To me, that's what it is. It's not. Critical Role is also very entertaining, but I also feel that there's a lot to be learned from it. There's a lot to be learned from it because you can basically watch these professionals, because Critical Role's cast, they're professional voice actors, but let's just say they're actors. Whether you do voice acting or on-screen acting doesn't really matter. You're actors. You're trained at understanding how a story works, how to develop a character. Critical Role is professionals playing D&D. You can't compare yourself to professionals playing D&D if you're just like a normal person, right? But you can learn from them. This is what I'm saying to answer Sam's question. How do you cultivate, and to answer some of your questions, how do you cultivate an interesting world, a rich world, okay? You start off with knowing your world. Now, I'm not saying you have to invent your own world. I love that stuff. I love world building. Carl, you're a writer.
Yeah, I know.
It's fun
It's
to
a lot of
develop
fun.
your own stories and develop your own world and characters. But some people don't like that.
Yeah.
Or some people, maybe they like it, but they're not good at it. So, like anything, you have to practice. And when you practice, don't try to build, you know, a massive world at first. Just start off with something small. Build like a cool town. Come up with, you know, a flavor, a vibe. Is it European medieval? Is it more primitive than that? Is your town, instead of being based on like European medieval, is it more like Scandinavian, like Viking? Is it more of like a rural setting? Is it more urban? Think about places, temples, churches, inns. Think about places that to the average person might not be that interesting. Maybe there's a blacksmith shop in your town that just looks like a blacksmith shop, but underneath the floorboards of the blacksmith shop at nighttime, all these guys get together and it's almost like a fight club thing. And there's this huge gambling ring and it's run by the Thieves Guild. Do you know where that came from? Fight Club. I just took Fight Club and I made it D&D. Right. So, influence comes from all around us. Inspiration comes from all around us. You just have to know how to look at it, look for it, and use it, right? I am not a believer that the greatest ideas just come out of our brains. In fact, I'm the opposite. I kind of believe that all the great stories have already been told. We just recycle them. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, everyone wants to have like the next big idea, the best thing possible, but it's true, you know, everything's been told, storytelling's been around forever,
Yeah.
obviously, so you just gotta kind of put your own spin on things and make it interesting for yourself and for the world.
And that's the thing, that put your own spin on it. If you don't feel strong about writing or creating your own worlds, then maybe you just start off with published material. There's a lot of, you know, between the official licensed published material, right, all the Forgotten Realms and Eberron and all that stuff, but there are a lot of, you know, you could go to drive-thru RPG. I mean, people are publishing their own homebrew content all over the webs now. It's a very rich environment. So maybe you start off with somebody else's stuff at first. Maybe. Okay? But one way or the other, know your world. Whether it's someone else's content or you decide to create your own. What I mean by know it is like read through your own notes and know it in your imagination. Know it in your mind. You'll notice that when I run the game, I don't have a DM screen. I stopped using DM screens years ago because I don't have anything to hide. I sometimes have my laptop for notes, and it's more because like I'm old and I just I can't remember all the crap that I create, man. I mean, I literally have hundreds of pages of notes for my world. And what I try to do is prep ahead of time. I take, you know, like half an hour or so before the game session, and I read through all my notes and try to refresh myself. And I might keep my laptop like handy in case I can't remember the name of an inn or like a certain NPC. But most of the time I don't need notes and I don't need a DM screen because I know my world. Just keep it in your mind. Instead of, do we have a question?
No, he wants to go on camera.
So instead of just reading notes out of the book, that's a big no-no to me. So there's flavor text. Like in adventures, there are a lot of flavor text where, here's the description of the inn. And a lot of new DMs will take that book and they'll read it. I'm just going to pretend, right? So here's my player's handbook. And it'll be like, say somebody casts a spell. I'm just ran, here's Flame Strike. Instead of describing it, here's how the book would say: a vertical column of divine fire roars down from the heavens in a location you specify. Each creature in a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder centered on a point within range must make a dexterity saving throw. I mean, that's the mechanics, right? How do you describe that spell? Number one, the player. Let the player do it. I try to let the players, especially when I'm running experience games with people who know the rules, not so much for the D&D show because they're new, but I try to let the players describe how they do stuff. Don't just roll dice. Encourage the people at your table to describe what they're doing. Okay, I'm a fighter, Max. I have a sword.
Okay.
There's an orc. We rolled initiative, it's my turn. I attack it, roll. I rolled a 17, plus 3, 20. That's just mechanics. All you're doing is describing mechanics. Instead, encourage the player to be like, describe what you do. Okay, I run up and I feint and then I swing my sword over the top and I come down in a diagonal and I try to cut him diagonally across his chest. See how that's like a lot more rich?
Yep.
And then if the player takes the time to describe that as the DM, after he makes the roll and we know whether it's successful and how much damage it does, as the DM, it's my job then to make that description. Max, you pull just as you planned. You pull your sword down and in an arc diagonally across, you just tear the flesh of the orc open. And doing enough damage, he drops to the ground, nearly dead.
Yeah, that's just good writing.
He falls down to his knees. Right. I didn't need to read that out of a book. I'm just responding. So much of D&D, so much of good D&D is improv. It's improvisation. But it's an interactive improvisation. We play the game, you describe what you're doing. My job as the DM is to describe what happens after that. My job is to know my world. So it comes back to know your world. Sam's question. Yeah.
You also have a comment on Facebook Live.
Oh, it's Seamus. Hey, you big nerd. Love you. Nice White Sox shirt. That's right, Seamus. Because Southside. Live your role, don't just play it. That's Phil DeLong. He used to play games with me. And then he grew up and now he only plays video games. Hi, Phil. Yeah, live your role, don't just play it. The more you get into your character as a player, and the more you know your world as the GM, the more fun the game's gonna be. Role-playing games are not just rolling dice and killing shit. That's a board game. A role-playing game takes it to the role, the ROLE.
How did you come up with the gods?
Okay. Now these are questions about my specific world. Get to that in a second. Let me finish answering Sam's question. Because Sam's question is a question I see from a lot of people. You're starting up a campaign. How do you start your campaign outside of the traditional, like, all right, you're all in a tavern? First of all, there's nothing wrong with everybody starting off in a tavern. I know it's cliche, but there are a lot of ways to solve that problem. Number one, the thing that I like to do, if I'm going to start up a long-running campaign with a group where people are investing time, I have everybody work with me on their character backgrounds, and then I do what's called a prelude adventure, right? The adventure, just a one-on-one adventure with them and their character, about their character, and how they get started into the campaign. I look at all the characters. Imagine a wheel on a bike. I find the spokes that connect them together. Does that make sense, Max?
Yep.
For a non-gamer, what I do is I take all the characters on the wheel and I find commonalities and how I can connect them. And you know what? As a DM, I love that. I love it. I've even challenged myself sometimes to connect all the characters together with my blindfolds on, without knowing their backstory. And it just makes me feel even more awesome when I'm able to do that. But I love taking a group of characters and connecting them together. Now, some DMs say, well, hey, look, you all have to know each other in advance because it's too much of a hassle to, have me connect you all. Or, you can only be these races and these classes because it's too much of a hassle for me to connect you all. I mean, if it's too hard, then it's too hard. But then you work with your players. Incorporate them. Let them make the decision. Decide like, hey, how do you guys want to know each other? Oh, you two guys want to be brothers? Cool. And you two people want to, maybe you were in the militia together and then you both like finished your service to the militia and now you're like young adventurers starting out your life together. Cool. You know, maybe it's just a simple hook like this. Maybe it's just a job. Maybe these people don't know each other at all and they don't meet up in a tavern, but one person finds each one of them individually and says, hey, my company is looking to hire a group of adventurers to explore this mine. We're looking for this specific thing. We want to hire you to go get it from the mine, clear out any problems that might be afflicting our mine, and anything else that you can carry out of the mine is yours to keep as a bonus. What adventurer wouldn't want to do that, right? Doesn't have to be a mine, it could be anything, right? Your adventure hook. So this NPC goes around to each of the characters and he says, all right, you want the job? Max says sure, because he's an adventurer and he wants the job. Albert says sure, he's an adventurer, he wants the job. You go around the table, you do this during their prelude, they don't know each other. But now, you say, good, you want the job? Meet at the Oak Tavern, the Bloody Oak Tavern, at 7 p.m. tonight. Or, you know, at dusk, since they don't have clocks. Or at when the bell tolls 6. That everybody meets up. Doesn't have to be the tavern. Maybe they meet up at the guild house that's hiring them. Maybe they meet up at the office of the mine, the overkeeper of the mine, of the mining operation. Maybe it's not a mine. Maybe they're going to an island that's very dangerous to recover a lost golden statue. So the person who's hiring them owns the shipping company that bought rights to that island. I'm just making all this stuff up off the top of my head. But you see the point? You have a hook, you have an NPC that draws them all together, and then they do what they're going to do. So it doesn't have to be a tavern. They don't have to know each other, or maybe they could, right? Those are all options that you could do. All right, time to answer that question, Dave. What was it? 'Cause I'm old.
I don't know. There's been a lot since then.
All right, but it was like, how do you come up with the gods?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's how I come up with all gods. I look at the real world. I look at real history and mythology. That's it. And then I think of basic things that are part of any divine pantheon. Okay, so you have the seasons. Look at the seasons. You know, you've got meaning in different cultures throughout our world for the seasons. Spring is typically like rebirth, right? Or birth, or rebirth, or awakening. It's the renewal, just like in nature, it's the renewal of things. That's spring. Summer is like that kind of fertile growth. It's that maturation process. It's life, you know. Fall is the harvest. It's kind of when things really come together. It's, you know, something in its prime. And then winter typically, you know, signals like the end of the life cycle, or the end of nature, or going into hibernation, or even death. Depends on how you want to look at it. I look at the elements, because elemental stuff in D&D and in a lot of other settings is important, right? Earth, wind, fire, water. And through real life, you know, I look at things like the sun and the moon, you know, and the ocean and mountains and the land. All of those could fit into your gods. Your gods could represent just one of those things, or they could represent multiples. Look at divine magic in the setting that you're using. And in my original setting, divine magic is very important. So you may have a god who is just a god of knowledge. You could have a god of law and order. You could have a god of chaos and entropy. You could have gods or goddesses of the elements. You could have gods or goddesses that combine different things. I also tie it into my world with geographic features. I have one god who's basically a volcano god, right? And that's not new. I didn't invent that concept. Like the Greeks and the Romans had that, you know, and other cultures throughout the world had that. But I'm like, what would a volcano god be? Well, a volcano god would probably be a god that you're scared of, because if the volcano blows up, you're dead. So what do you do to make that god happy? You throw offerings into the volcano, right? Because you're like, oh, maybe he'll be happy.
Throw Anna's character in there.
Well, it could be human sacrifices. Maybe you have a culture that's kind of evil, and they're like, we will throw an old person into the into the volcano to please the volcano god. Or
Firstborn.
yeah, their firstborn. Maybe it's children, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's animals and crops. Offerings, and they're not evil, but they're like, oh, we hope that the volcano god. But that god is a volcano is of fire and of earth, right? You have both of these things. So that's kind of how I start. Now the names, well, that's a little different. So I'll just give you a blanket things for how I come up with the names. This is probably like the biggest tip that I can share with people. It's like for a video game. You ready? So in my original world, I came up with a language system. That's really not a language, it's more of a code. So Max. In my original world, your name Max would be Knees. N-E-Z. All I do is I take a consonant and I adjust it by one letter. So M becomes N. And then I take a vowel and I adjust it by one vowel. A becomes E. And then X becomes Z. I would skip Y, because Y. So anyway, N-E-X, or M-A-X becomes N-E-Z. And then I make my vowels hard vowels. So that's why instead of it being Nez, it would be Knees, right? My name Bill would be C-O-M-M, which you would think is calm, but it's pronounced comb. O, hard O. That's the dumb code that I came up with to make names for places, for people in my original world. Now that's not the whole world. That's just one continent. That's just the continent of Arakazine. And that's just the old language of Ancient Dominion. That's one language on a continent that has like 7 languages. But that's an example, okay? On the new continent for season 2 of D&D with high school students, I use some of that system, but I also use, and here's the simple part, I use Google Translate. So I type in the word mountain in English, and then I go to Google Translate, I go to the drop down, and I find some obscure language that nobody knows, like Hungarian or Malagasy or Malawi, you know what I mean? Or Estonian. And I find the word, and if I like how it looks, I use it. If I don't, I find some other language.
Or
and that's
American.
Yeah, that's literally
not
how I
language.
create the cool names in my stuff. I know it's disappointing now to share that secret with you, because you probably thought I was this like font of creative genius, but that's it. I literally just go to Google Hangout and I find, like, if anybody from like Hungary ever watches it, or like Romania ever watches the D&D show and like looks at the names, they're gonna be like, seriously, Magic Water Fountain is the name of this town? That's like, that's how I come up with stuff. But that's what I mean about inspiration and influence and creativity being all around us. You don't have to like be J.R.R. Tolkien or George R.R. Martin. You just have to look around you and see some influence and then mold it into what you need it to be in your game. That's how I do it. That's the secret of the Dungeon Master. Like, and it's fun. It's fun to come up with this. I came up with that whole continent in like a day. Now, part of that was because I had ideas already brewing in my brain for it, but the rest of it was just like making the map and then thinking about the map and thinking about how that would work, you know? So I decided that the Pantheon was going to be really simple and really just based on the elements. The races and the kingdoms would be based on a variety of different things. I definitely wanted to have some theocracies. I wanted to have a magocracy. I wanted to have some monarchies. And I wanted to have some rivalries between those things. So I just started to piece these things together and then work around to the names of the cities and the towns and use geography in there. So like I had one lake that was on the map. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew that I needed to have a small freshwater lake. So then I was like, ooh, what if it was considered sacred by the local people? and like they used the water from that lake for like religious ceremonies, and there was a group of monks that defended the lake from people who would defile it. Right?
Trying
All
to,
that
like,
just
fish
came
or
up.
whatever,
Yeah, all that just came up from having a dumb lake on a map. That's it. You know, so you just gotta kind of think through things, and don't be afraid to use the books. The player's handbook. I will maintain that you can play Dungeons and Dragons with just this book. You don't need to go out and buy everything else. But at the same time, the other books could be valuable. So, you know, I don't really use the monster manual or Volo's guide because most of the creatures that I make in my original world are my original creatures. But it doesn't mean I couldn't look through this book and find something to be an influence and then change it. So look, I'm randomly flipping this open. This is live. Here we are, giants. So if I wanted to have a frost giant in my campaign, and I was playing with experienced players who know the stats for this frost giant, all I have to do is change the name of the frost giant and change a couple abilities, and now it's like a brand new monster that my players can't meta. They don't know how to defeat it. Okay, so maybe instead of calling it a frost giant, I call it a Umgaru. I just made up some sounds. And Garu. Umgaru. And they're like, what's an Umgaru? Well, I know it's a frost giant, but they don't know that. And then this frost giant has multi-attacks with the ability to make 2 great axe attacks. If I'm using this against a party that's really powerful, because it's a challenge level 8 mob, maybe I make it a 4-armed creature instead of 2, and now it gets 4 attacks. There, done. That's as easy as that. That's how you modify something like that. At the same time, you could scale something down, right? So if I have, let me find something else here that's not like crazy powerful. Well, I could take a goblin and I could scale it up. Just give him 3 attacks around. Now he's automatically like a mid-level creature. Or throw him an extra 20 hit points. And instead of calling him a goblin, call him a Chikaza. I literally just took a series of consonants and vowels, and I made a new creature. It's called the Chikaza. It gets 3 attacks around, and instead of having, 7 hit points, it has 25. So you can make changes. What's the question?
I don't know. There's been a lot.
Facebook is blowing up also.
Well, that's good.
Olivia wants to know what's your favorite moment from D&D with high school students.
My favorite moment still, well, season 1 or season 2. I guess that's the question. Season 1 would be probably the very last episode of season 1. After many failures in die rolls, when Brian Lee finally came through the clutch, when Brian finally came through and redeemed his spellcaster. That was season 1, probably favorite season 1 part. Season 2 would probably be in that first episode where they fought the Grey Robes and like everybody was, concerned about this, and Carl ran to the roof and got everybody's attention and effectively saved the day and drew everybody's attention away from what was going on. That would probably be one of the favorite moments from season 2. Because it showed role playing. I didn't have to coach him to do that. He just did that. And I was like, oh, thank God they're getting it, That's the best part. When you're a GM or DM and you are running a game and you put all this time into it and your players aren't into it, that sucks. It just defeats your motivation. But when your players are into it and they're responding and they're playing their roles and everybody's having fun, that's what makes tabletop role-playing games magical. That's why it's better than any video game, I promise. Better than any interactive thing that you could do, because you're face-to-face with humans. We, as humans, are designed to look each other in the eyeballs. Animals in the world do this. It's sensing motive. It's sensing intent. We're designed to be face-to-face. We need human interaction in our lives, like mentally, to stimulate us, emotionally, all that stuff. People need human interaction. Maybe that's why I don't like the Twitch games where everybody's Skyping in, because it doesn't feel real to me, because they're not face-to-face. I don't know. That's just my personal thing. What else, Dave? What do we got?
What?
Katrina. I use Welsh words for Elvish. Yeah. Um, my eyes suck. Adirine means bird and works as a nice name. Yes. Yes. Well, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, here's the thing. Tolkien was like heavily into linguistics. That's why his languages for his, Elvish and like the two Elvish languages and Dwarvish and stuff, that's why his are like real languages. And now with things like Game of Thrones, like they actually have like Valyrian, Dothraki, and all that stuff. I mean, that is so cool. And if you look on my YouTube channel, I made a video a while back, just a short vlog about how doing language, even if you just use a smattering of words here and there, it brings something to life in your game. So definitely, DMs, definitely do that. Even if you have to rip off something. Even if it's just like a little bit, maybe there's a map and there's words on the map, and just go to Google Translate and like search a random language and write it out. And then your players have to discover what this means, and it adds something to it, rather than the map just being like, go to the Island of Skulls, Maybe it has a secret message in the map, Or maybe you give them a scroll, a prop at the table, and it's in this language that none of them know, and they have to like go research it, and that's part of the adventure. And then once they research, they find out what the message means on the scroll, and then they can go on the next part of the adventure. Those are little things that you could do. Or whether it's that, or just names for countries, or names for NPCs, names for gods. Language is really powerful. So check out that vlog too on my channel. What else do we got? Hi, Nico. Bonjour, mon vieux. Ça va? Okay, what else? What other questions do we have? I'm running out of feedback, people. Talk to me. Talk to me.
Remember when Carl was awkward with the lady at the wine cellar?
Yeah, Carl could have hooked up with the lady at the wine cellar easily. Carl could have easily hooked that up. Yeah, I mean, I think that, there are a lot of different options. There are a lot of different ways for people to incorporate more role-playing in their games. And even if you start off small, just little bits of language, little bits of like, mapping or world building design kind of stuff, that's all good things. Oh, I'm listening to myself.
And do you play PCs as NPCs if they can't show up?
No, I hate that. Oh, good question. Who asked that?
D-Sow 6.
Do I play PCs? No. When I'm running a game, my character is not allowed to be in the game. I feel very strongly about that. Now, I've played in games where the DM plays their own character in the game. And it's fine. If you're an experienced DM and you want to run it that way, I believe an experienced DM can do that without favoring their character or without being too meta, right? But I don't feel like it's fair. I've never felt like that was fair. So I don't do that. When I run games, I'm just running the NPCs. I never run my own characters. And I feel really strongly about that. I think it's, first of all, it's kind of a distraction. And second, I'm like, why do you need to run your own PC? You're the DM. You run everybody else that's not a human. You're running all the world. So why do you need to run a PC? And third, just me personally, I get bored with my own characters. Like, when I die in a game, it's totally okay, because I'm ready to move on. Like, I have a billion character ideas in my brain that I can't possibly play. And I get bored playing my own characters. So as a DM, I love the fact that I play all these NPCs. It gives me an opportunity to do different voices and accents and characters, and to play good guys and bad guys. And just to play like
Johnny Lombardi,
generic guys. What up, Johnny Lombardi? What's up?
Lombo!
So that's one of the things that I definitely don't do. I do not play my own PCs. Won't do it. Haven't done it. Don't like doing it. I don't know if you'll recognize my name, but if you guys want some special dice, I can hook you up. Love what you're doing. Hey, we take everything.
That's really weird that's showing up on the comments in there, but not on.
So what happened to the Void Monk last episode? Oh, all right. Well, I have good news, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. First, number one, we have an episode popping. Why do I keep saying popping? It's dropping. we have an episode coming online on Saturday.
No,
Tomorrow.
you said that was.
Not a full episode. You're right, Max. So, since Anna wasn't with us at NAB, I did a side session, an interlude, intermission, basically episode 5.5. Okay, with just Anna. You'll find out what happened with Trixie and with the Void Monk tomorrow. Then episode 6. Then episode 6 in the studio will be on Monday.
I'm on that.
And Max is on that.
Yep.
Because Matt Kavanaugh was out sick, so Max stepped in to play Maximilian, which was kind of cool. So new episodes are coming tomorrow and on Monday. And I think we're back in a pretty regular filming schedule.
Yeah.
Right, Dave? I think we're
Next,
back.
I'm MEA.
Well, yeah, we got the video festival next Friday, so we have to record another episode next week, either Wednesday or Thursday. And then I don't want to should I give this away about the special guests, or should I hold off?
Hold off.
Okay.
Just say special guest.
All right. All I could say right now is we have some special guests that will be appearing in episodes 7 and 8. I can't tell you who, but it's going to be pretty cool. All you people that have been watching since the beginning, since season 1, I think you're going to like episodes 7 and 8. So it's been pretty amazing. And I want to say thank you again. Oh, I forgot. For those of you who are trying to donate to the Rev Track and pointed out that it was broken, thank you for telling me it was broken. Apparently they moved the page, so we were getting like 404 errors. It is now fixed. I updated it with the new link in the description on all of the videos. So if you do want to support the show or support the kids, you can go to that Rev Track link and donate directly. It goes straight to the TV club. I don't take a dime of it, and the school doesn't take a dime of it. So it goes to the club, to the kids. It allows us to do cool things like buy equipment that we need. It allows us to buy supplies that we need. It allows us to attend cool things like workshops and conferences and NAB. So all that stuff. So yeah, the Rev Track is working, and new episodes are coming out soon. Hey, I have a question. Ryan Roslin said, what are your views on the players being the bad guys, and how would that work? You know what? My views, Ryan.
One of the cast members just almost broke the light.
Hey, it's Heather.
Yeah.
Tripped on the light.
So here's my views on the players becoming the bad guys. I try to be very hands off as a DM, especially with my more
I hear Carl.
with my more experienced players. Carl, you can squeeze in.
Oh, I sure can squeeze.
With my more experienced players,
I hear the door opening.
I try to let the players choose the world. It's a sandbox. I don't pre-plan like a session adventure. I have adventures. I have options. So
It's my black
Scan.
magic backpack. Oh yeah, SCAD and I was trying NAB, but also SCAD.
We're going to SCAD?
We're going to
It's
SCAD.
college. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it be funny if you just punched her? She's like,
Please.
high five. Oh. All right. So then how do I feel about you guys becoming the bad guys? That was the
We're
question.
not
We're
bad.
not bad guys.
So here's the thing.
Anna is.
The group is naturally discovering the meaning of consequences in the game, which is awesome.
And in real life.
And in real life. So you guys are learning about what happens when you make certain decisions. That's what role-playing games are awesome for.
Sorry, we.
So if you guys if they became the bad guys, that's just where it's going to go organically. And as the DM, it's my job to respond to that. It doesn't ruin the campaign. Any choice they make doesn't ruin anything. I just adjust. A DM must be like Bruce Lee said. We must be like water. We must be flexible. We must be soft at times and hard and come crashing down.
I sure am.
Be water. Be those things, right? I like to be flexible and adapt and respond to what they're doing. So if they become the bad guys, that's where the campaign goes. That's where the story goes. If they redeem themselves and become the good guys, that's where that goes. It's all up to them and their choices, and that's what makes the interactive storytelling part of a role-playing game awesome. Good question. Someone is falling for the bard.
Oh,
That's
I will
Olivia.
never talk. I will
What?
never talk bad about Carl.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
What's up?
Oh, somebody asked about everybody being lefties. I
Yeah.
swear to God, I did not plan
Except
that.
Anna.
I'm a righty.
Anna's not a lefty.
Is Anna not a lefty?
Hmm.
No, Anna's a righty.
All right, so it is weird
But the
that
rest of us are
everybody's a lefty.
lefties.
I did not plan that at all. I've had some of these kids in my class for 4 years, and I never noticed it. Probably
Because
because
we edit with our right.
yeah,
Yeah, you edit when
Mouse
you're
is in our
right.
right.
yeah, because they use cameras and keyboards and they don't write. But yeah, I never noticed it. It's just the weirdest coincidence. But I do have like weird conspiracy theories about lefties and twins. So I don't know. It's just weird.
What's your conspiracy theory about lefties?
I think lefties are more creative minded.
Yeah.
I feel like free flowing for sure. Like in baseball, they've got like pretty swings compared to
Yeah.
right-handed
Yeah.
players.
I think lefties just have a different mindset.
I play sports with my right hand though. But I don't do sports anymore.
Okay, so now can we talk bad about Carl? Okay, so
What do you want to
hey,
hear about
Jonathan.
Carl?
hi Jonathan
What do you
Isa.
want? What's the dirt on Carl?
Yeah, what's the dirt on Carl? Here,
Okay,
where
Carl
do we
and I
start?
went to college
say hi to
together.
Jonathan, my nephew.
Hi, Jonathan, Bill's nephew.
Hi, Jonathan.
Jonathan's starting
How old
to,
is he?
to play. He's your guys' age,
Oh, cool.
Oh,
so he's
Where's he
he's
from?
He's from Iowa.
Oh, I was gonna say if he was local.
Yeah, he better came here.
he-
Yeah.
Well, this summer. This summer.
This summer.
Shh. Yeah, maybe. All right. We don't want to.
See you then, Jonathan.
Jonathan said, "How do you feel about being sorry, I
Being
can't read.
famous, it feels great. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah. How do you feel about people making characters with uncommon, rare, or even monster races from a GM perspective?" Okay, so again, this comes down to the world and the setting. If you're playing in a world where that's normal, then I'm totally fine with that. I don't have any personal bias against that. I think in season 1 of D&D, when I made everybody be humans, people took that as like, I'm against other races, or I'm against letting players choose things. I'm not. It's just literally in that setting of my world, on that continent, humans are the race, that's it. If you are a DM and you want to have adventures in a setting where you have elves, dwarves, goblins, changelings, warforged, whatever,
Candace, pick it up.
that's totally fine. I am not against it. I will say that I think
He's not that clear.
I will say that it could be fun to have an adventuring group with a bunch of different races, but it could also be fun to try out the opposite. Maybe try out one adventure where
So when
Yeah,
we, early
sweet.
first
Yeah.
season, when we didn't know what we were doing, it was like
yeah.
it was like easier to be humans because none of us knew anything about D&D.
Right.
Don't zoom in.
So I feel I would agree with Heather that I think that
Wait, what is this?
There we go.
a lot of this is so weird. I'm streaming 3 places and it's lagged. All right,
But,
are we back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
We back?
yeah.
It's a little bit delayed.
It's a little bit delayed. Let
It's
it
no,
catch up.
it lags. It's been lagging.
1, 2, 3. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. That's not
Wow.
bad. It's only 5 seconds delayed.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so to answer your question, I think try it all. Try it all. Try it all. You don't know until you try it. And if it's a train wreck, try something else or try it again later. Maybe, here's an example. So we work with Initiative Coffee Company on the Bard's Tale. That came from an idea that a lot of people have. Hey, what if we had a party of all bards? Or what if we had a party of all monks or all wizards? You don't know until you try it. And then you either find out that it sucks, or it's just okay, or that it's amazing and it's fun. So you do the same thing with races. Try a thing where it's all elves, all dwarves, all gnomes. Try it all tieflings. See what, and then try mixing it. That's the thing. That's my feeling. I have no personal bias for or against. The best way to learn is just by getting out there and doing it. Try it. And if you dig it, turn it into a campaign. Turn that one-shot adventure into a campaign. Is this the only game? The Vault Descendant asks, is this your guys' only game, and how hard was it to convince the principal to do all this amazing madness? I didn't convince anyone, I just did it.
Bill
and,
Allen.
and part of it's because I'm me, but the other part is because the school is incredibly supportive of our program. And everybody who knows about this show, all the teachers and administrators and stuff who know about this show love it. In fact, true story, Dave and I were at the Village Hall. The village manager of LaGrange,
What?
well, I'm not joking, caught wind of the show and is like, hey, I think it's amazing what you guys are doing. She goes, listen, I played D&D with my brothers when I was younger. I was like, no way. So
That's
it's
funny.
amazing how many people.
I can't wait to be a Jewel and the village manager comes up and says, "Are you from D&D with high
Yeah.
schoolers?"
So I mean, and because
We
here's
should
the thing.
headshots and like.
Here's the thing. For as fun as it is to
we're
just
getting
play,
too big to put.
as fun as it is
I
to
can't-
just
I
play
can't handle
D&D,
the
it's not just the fun part. It's
Yeah.
you're learning.
The attention.
You're learning. Carl
Carl's
needs the
ego.
attention. But it's also from a production component. It's a great opportunity from the video side for us because we get to produce this show in the studio. I mean, we could do like a boring talk show, but instead we're doing
It's
something
fun.
different and it's fun.
interactive.
And it uses like 7 cameras and lighting and sound and it's, I mean, everybody from the crew to the cast is learning from it, you know? So I didn't ask permission. The hardest part about this damn show is schedules because like every time we want to shoot, either someone's out sick or they have to like take a test or
We're
college
17
visits.
years old.
Yeah, that's the hard part is coordinating schedules. I mean, we could play every day if everybody was here, but it's hard to do that,
That's
you know?
impossible.
I mean, and it's like
I'll play every
you would
day.
have like
Yeah, and people
yeah, we
have
have
work.
jobs.
Yes.
We have,
no, like I'm
Like-
saying, like video. work.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everybody's
yeah.
making videos outside of this
I
too,
need
you
snow
guys.
cone.
So, Anna is the best.
Boo.
Or
What?
well, actually, it's
What?
spelled Besat, B-E-S-A-T. So I don't know if that
So
means
worse.
beast or best.
Hey, what is Olivia up to?
No, it's best.
Oh no. Convert it with your.
Olivia said hi to you.
No.
Olivia's my
Convert it
big
with your
fan. My
language.
biggest fan.
Maybe they tried to do that. There's no way she's the best though.
Yeah, 'cause that's so
Sorry,
weird.
That's all the lefties. Hold on.
Basat. What's Basat? A.
Maybe
Wait,
it's
no,
French.
that's
It
about.
was just a typo. It's best.
Maybe it's French.
Um,
Bon Iver.
If the players would have asked, would the innkeeper tell them the names of those 2 elves they're trying to track down? You know, that's a great question. And the players didn't ask because they're dumb. No.
that's what I said.
They should. You owe your life,
To Bill
Carl.
Allen.
No, to Olivia.
Yeah, sorry, I was flirting.
Your lives to Bill
It's a girl
Allen.
that she's a fan of me.
She's flirting with you?
No, she's just a fan of me
Oh.
specifically.
Oh,
Dude.
Olivia's trying to guess who the special guests are. Shh, Olivia, keep it down.
Easy.
Brian Lee,
No, I can't tell you.
Rory.
It's Dave Caraffa.
Okay, Lilith says that in Europe, everything for D&D is pretty much $10 more because of shipping.
Oh,
And finding lots of cheap things from one seller is pretty much impossible. What do you do?
make your own.
The black market.
You know what? Heather just said the truth. Make your own.
That's what we do.
Yep. Buy, literally,
Tell them about the McDonald's toy.
yes. I grew up playing D&D with a basic set of dice, a pencil, and a paper. We didn't even have books. And then we got a book. And then we got some more books. Just start small. Play the game with the player's handbook and some dice and paper, and that's all you need, your imagination. I was probably like 40 years old before I started having minis and terrain. All the stuff that you see on the table that I have out there is basically my midlife crisis. Some dudes buy like a fancy race car or go on like expensive gambling trips and golfing. I bought nerdy crap for D&D.
I'll be down for
So yeah, I mean
I'm in my
minis,
midlife crisis.
look, minis and terrain are all good. They're great and they add a lot to your game, but you don't need them. The best thing that you need for a good game is players who want to play. Yeah, you need heart. That's right, Carl, you need heart.
Imagination.
Imagination.
Like that SpongeBob episode where he's in the box.
That's right.
It's exactly like
And it turns to a race car. That's all you need. All you need is a cardboard box to play D&D. Yes.
dice.
You,
Pretend to
you
roll
don't
the
need that.
dice.
Yeah, you roll them. And you can even get an app. I mean, I think everyone
Well,
has
if they
that.
only have a cardboard box, do they not?
Oh my god, they don't
phone. They probably don't
I
have a
can't
phone.
tell what the newest ones are or not. I got back into D&D by seeing the player's handbook in the store
You
and
gotta
being like,
scroll
oh
to the
yeah.
bottom.
You know what? It's a great time to get back into D&D. I never was out of D&D, but I played a lot of other games for a while, so D&D was on the back burners. It is I'm going to tell you this right now, and I've said it before. I know other people might be saying this, but it is a renaissance for role-playing games right now. We are in a second golden era of role-playing games. And I hope it keeps up, because obviously they're an important part of my life, but like I said before, we need human interaction. We are human beings. We're not meant to live on screens all the time, even though we're all on screens
You
right
want
now.
to like watch our Facebook live
But,
stream or
yeah.
YouTube live
Yeah.
stream?
But honestly, like, get together with your friends, and if you don't have friends, go to meetup.com or go to Craigslist or go to Twitter, go to somewhere and find other people in your area that are playing role-playing games.
There's places, no, like game shops. Like
Game
I know
shops.
around
Comics
here,
in downtown
Chimera's,
Comic book stores, game
the
stores.
Game Workshop in Downers
Yes.
Grove.
Well, but I'm
If
talking
there's,
about
like,
like
local
if you live in like Arkansas.
Yeah.
If you live in the middle of nowhere,
area.
maybe
But
your
if
local.
you live in Georgia,
Right.
Carl and I will play with you when we go to SCAD.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I
We're
know,
just
it's
kidding.
not-
We're
it's a
messing
joke.
around.
We're underage.
So, or go to your local library.
Yes, we're underage.
Or here's the thing, maybe there's no groups in your area, so you're the pioneer.
Wow.
You make flyers and you post them up at your library, at the gas station, at the local bar, at the local restaurant. And you have your email contact and people rip a strip and they contact you. And you start playing games with people,
It's not there.
and sometimes those, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes those pickup games with random people you don't know are awkward and you're like, I never want to see you again. And sometimes they turn into great people.
That's me with Matt Kaplan.
True story, ready?
Just kidding.
I was in college down at U of I,
Yeah.
at Champaign. And I was missing my gaming, right? All my game buddies were somewhere else and I felt alone and sad. I go to the comic book game store,
Yeah.
and I see people posting for games. I cling on with them. I call them up. I meet up with these groups. Some of them were kind of like just whatever. We didn't have the right chemistry. You know what I mean? They were kind of different players. I played a
Not
couple
like
times
our
with them, and then I bounced.
The best friends.
So then I'm like, you know what? I can't seem to find any good groups that click with me. I'm gonna put my own post up. Shut up! I'm talking. So then I put up my own flyer.
Oh.
Wow.
I get calls from people. To this day, 3 of those people are my best friends.
Brian?
Now, one of them was my childhood friend.
What?
He was at U of I. We were childhood friends all the way up through 8th grade, and then in high school, like, kind of went our separate
Yeah.
ways. He sees this thing at the game store. He calls me up. He's like, dude, he's like,
Aw.
let's play. And I'm like, all right.
Wait, that's so cute.
Right? And that was Peter Episode.
And
He's
now
still
they're
one of my best
married.
friends.
How's
And
that
now,
there?
and then two other strangers who I didn't know, Andrew Busey and Chris Potoff, end up calling me up to play.
Wait, how did we know Chris?
Chris Potoff is Officer Potoff. He's a police officer. And he's one of my best
Is
friends.
that how I know him?
And no.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Um,
no,
and
that
then-
name just sounds familiar.
And then Andrew Busey ended up being one of my best friends. And 2 of those people were roommates. So like that connection, that random connection ended up
Yeah.
being great. And where did it come from? Games. So, well, not D&D. It came from Vampire, the role-playing game, made by White Wolf, which I also play.
You played a vampire role-playing game?
Dude, I am. You might as well just call me Dracula, because I might as well have invented
okay.
that game. I'm old school with the vampire. 93. Before vampires were cool, vampire.
Bill, one time I went to a D&D store in like because that's where it's.
Yeah. All right, so
I want to tell you. never
I have to
told
leave
him.
for study hall in 3 minutes. So
So I'll run the ship.
we're gonna no.
So we'll run.
We're gonna wrap this up. I hope Feedback Friday was cool for y'all. I hope I answered. I tried to answer as many questions as I
I
could.
thought I was gonna
Answer
get
another
interviewed.
one.
I literally just
Oh wait,
sat
wait,
here
hold
for
on.
an hour and a
Mitchell
half.
Reese. I'm running a group with 2 wizards and a rogue. No tanks. I'm always having a problem with them being squishy. What do you do at low level with squishies? Let me tell you. Let me tell you. You have them make friends with some NPCs who are tanks. And that goes for any, if you have a party of anything, say you have a party of all tanks, but they have no healers, have them make friends with a healer. You as the DM come up with an NPC that will solve their problems, and they become friends with them. That's how you solve that problem. That way they're not forced to make a party to be balanced. They don't have to do that. I tell my players, make whatever the hell you want to have fun with, and I'll fill in the blanks with NPCs. That's the best way to do it. I think I answered that question pretty quickly.
You had something on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, mine Colton Craft said Vusake. Vusake is just water. You're right. VUSAQ. They were asking how I come up with the names for stuff, and I told them my secret, which is I go to Google Translate and I type in some shit, and then I just find a random language like Romanian or Hungarian or Malagasy, and then if it looks cool, I use it. Yeah, that's how I come up with all my cool names. So you're right. You're right, Colton. You're right, buddy.
How many people are watching?
1,000.
Lilith wants to know, I'm working on my first campaign for like 3 months now. I'm running into problems and I solve them as I go. I'm worried about all the rules. Without the player's handbook, I'm limited with everything. Don't let rules limit you ever. If it sounds right at the time, go with that. If your players argue, listen to them, and if their argument is fair, then change your ruling. But if they're just being annoying, then just tell them, no, I'm the DM, this is what we're going to do, and move on. You don't need rules. You just need imagination and a story. In fact, roll less dice. Don't roll dice for everything. Like, we make jokes, like, do I have to roll dice to walk? No. Like,
That's a good joke.
you know,
We joke.
if Carl comes up with a convincing thing,
I do, usually.
I don't always make him roll dice. Like, here's an exact example. This is a sneak peek, because this is from episode 6, which you're not going to see until Monday. But at one point,
Monday.
Carl is talking to an NPC, and the NPC asks him what his name is. And instead of saying Rayloff, he goes, my name is Carl, which I know is a lie. Now, I could have made Carl make a deception roll, but I'm like, no, he played that off really well. He didn't have to think through it, he just played it off well. I'm going to go with that. Now, I did make him make a persuasion roll later, but you'll find out when you watch episode 6.
Monday.
Alright, yeah, I'm on it.
I'm Monday.
Anna's episode, her interlude episode, what Trixie was doing while they were all in Vegas, that drops tomorrow, Saturday.
Oh, cool.
And then episode 6 drops Monday. So
You don't have school on Monday.
we don't have school, but the world can watch you play D&D.
Wow.
Yay!
D&D never ends, man.
Yes. Alright, I'm out of
Stuck
time.
here.
Thank you for tuning in to Feedback Friday. Thank you for supporting us. Please like, share, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all the things.
Follow me on
Follow me
Instagram.
on
Thanks for
Twitter.
tuning in from Facebook Live. Thanks for tuning in from YouTube.
Actually,
Anna, for all your
wait, no.
questions.
Everyone check out my SoundCloud in the description. I released a new song a couple weeks ago, and it's really special, so check it out.
2 things.
Thank you.
Follow me on Twitter at MaxSaveTV.
You're not even on the show.
Shut up. I made a guest appearance. And also, if you're looking for a great tuxedo, reach out to me on Twitter, and I will hook you up with a $50 off coupon. Not telling you where because I'm
For
not
prom.
doing free. Yeah, I need a prom tux for free.
Roll dice, have fun, and interact with humans. And
Bye.
that's